Hey, what is happening, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo, senior editor here at thecoalition.com. Hope you guys have been doing all right. I got another fun exclusive interview for you guys on some cool stuff that I hope you guys are going to enjoy. If you haven't already, you guys definitely need to check out our unboxing and impressions video of the Women in Gaming 100 Professionals of Play book. That's coming out actually tomorrow at the time we're recording this. So by the time you guys hear this, it should already be out on store shelves and stuff. But I got the author of the book, Meagan Marie, to chat with me a little bit about it. Meagan, what's good? Thank you for coming to chat with me. How you doing so far?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. Lots of crazy stuff going on at work and getting ready to launch the book and so on. But it's a good kind of tired. It's a I can't believe this is finally coming out kind of tired.
That's good though. I mean, that's great because again, like I said, it's coming out tomorrow. It's going to be on store shelves, correct? So people could probably get it up like Barnes and Nobles. People could buy it online and such.
Yeah, and it's also being sold at GameStop, Amazon.com. So I'm not going to lie. I'm definitely going to go into a GameStop and take a picture of it on a store shelf.
There you go. Post it on Twitter. Post it on social.
Really exciting. So.
There you go. That sounds pretty cool. That's got to feel good, though. At least, once you make a book like that, and it's going to be out in all these different places that, relate to something that you love, relate to gaming. That's got to be a cool feeling overall, right?
I don't think that I ever would have, I worked at a Game Crazy, not GameStop. When I was a teenager, I worked at a game store. And I don't think I could have ever imagined that one day I would have a book on being sold on the shelves of a video game store. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
Well, believe it, because now this is your reality. Because, again, we got the book right here. I got the book right in front of me, which is awesome. Women in Gaming, 100 Professionals of Play. Again, I did the unboxing and precious video that you guys could check out on the website right now. So I want to know a little bit, about the making of the book, like some of the stuff that was going through your head when you were putting everything together and stuff. Like, how did this really kind of start off? I mean, did you call somebody? Did you hit up Prima Games and be like, hey, listen, I got an idea for a book? Or did they hit you up? I mean, how did that whole thing start overall?
Yeah, so in 2016, I had the opportunity to write a book called 20 Years of Tomb Raider. And that was something I did through work, evidently, when I was pitching, possible projects that we could do to celebrate the 2 decades of Tomb Raider. I was really enthusiastic sounding about this book. And so Prima was like, do you want to write it? And I didn't even know that was something I was allowed to do. So I did. I wrote that book, and it kind of established a nice relationship with Prima. And I worked with them on a couple of other projects since then. And so they messaged me in December of last year. And I remember I was out to eat when I read the email, and I just was kind of stunned because I saw that. Yeah, well, because I knew, one, the topic is incredible. It's something that is really important to me. And also, I just kind of had this, it was sort of a, emotional response because I was extremely excited. And I was also like, oh my goodness, I can't say no to this. And I'm going to be launching a game and writing a book the same year. And that's going to be challenging.
Which is awesome. I can imagine.
And it was very challenging, but it was completely worth it. So Prima basically contacted me with a general subject, and then they are, an amazing company, and they basically gave me freedom to flesh out the book as I wanted. So they allowed me to pick the general format, the number of profiles, the cover artist, suggestions for interior spread design, each of the features I basically came up with. So they were very, very accommodating and trusted me to put together what they, thought would be. That sounds like you had a lot of freedom.
Overall, you had a lot of freedom to kind of put everything together the way you wanted it to be put together, correct?
Yeah, and so that was kind of, having that much freedom is great, but it's also a little bit scary. So the first thing I did was just order a ton of books from Amazon for women in various fields. So celebrating women, environmental workers, or women in space, or women in the medical field, or even a really great one was African American women of the Wild West, which was fascinating. That was such a good one. But I looked at these books and I kind of wanted to see how they structured things and how they told their stories, and were they chronological, or were they by subject matter, and so I just looked at a lot of different books that were celebrating women, and from there I decided on the framework.
Yeah, I was going to say, I looked at the author's notes, like, towards the back of the book, and it's very big. It's very deep. Like, there's a lot of stuff I'm pretty sure you reference, while gathering some of the different individuals that you highlighted in the book. And you got over 100 in here. Or it says 100, but there's a little bit more, at least from my count.
Oh, yeah, there's like 150. Cool.
There's a lot.
I found ways to sneak extra women in there because I was having a really, really hard time narrowing down the list. Like, the most difficult thing of this entire project was narrowing down the list, because I knew no matter what, and I've steeled myself for this. It's been long enough now. I've steeled myself because I know that, someone's favorite or most inspirational person, may not be on there. And that's something that, I tried to address in the author's note, that it wasn't possible to include all of the amazing, talented women in the industry. And if we were able to get all of these amazing women,
it'd be a bigger book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be sad if we could get all the contributions of women in the industry into a single book. I think it's actually a good thing that we struggled to cull the list down to 100 profiles and these various other women that we interviewed.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something about that specifically, because there's a couple that I was surprised that weren't included. And then obviously, like you said, you addressed it like the very first couple pages. You had this whole paragraphs of stuff just saying like, hey, listen, this is the reason why the book is like this. This is what we kind of tackle. This is what we focus on and stuff. But for me individually, there was a couple big names in there that I felt like should have been included, because at least, in my life, in my relation to gaming, even me being a guy, not a woman, it's still, there was like some names in there that I was like, yo, this was like an important person I felt like should have also maybe gotten profiled or maybe even being quoted. I mean, what was like the criteria for you for whether to include certain people in the book or not to, or when you couldn't be able to because of like, time and space and stuff?
Yeah.
It's a big one.
I did watch your video, and I actually did reach out to Morgan Webb.
I'm just saying.
She was actually, she was one of the first women that I was aware of in video games, because I watched G4, and seeing her up there presenting and being, so knowledgeable was I think extremely important. But she is an extremely, extremely busy woman, and she didn't have the time to commit to participating, which is completely understandable. And, it's a bummer that we didn't get her, but it doesn't in any way devalue the incredible work that she's done. But for the most part, I had to make some extremely, extremely difficult choices, because I wanted the book to be extremely diverse. I wanted to make sure it wasn't, American centric. I wanted to make sure that we got women from around the world. I wanted to make sure that we got diverse ethnicities and opinions and geographical regions.
A wide range overall.
Yeah, exactly. And pulling from the LGBT community. And I wanted to make sure that we had women from serious games and indie games and games for good, and not just AAA big names that everybody knows. So I mean, my initial brainstorming list was probably 500 women.
That's a lot.
that I just thought of. And so I started categorizing them by like, okay, how many do we have a good representation of programmers? Do we have a good representation of designers? Do we have women from, industries or specialities within the industry that people don't normally consider when they're thinking of video game jobs? So I made sure to have women from marketing and PR and community management and video game retail and a GameStop manager, and all of these people who make the industry work. Like, every role is so vital to making the industry what it is. And so it's extremely hard to be, to get everybody in a list when you're trying to make sure that it's very diverse and celebrates all of the unique vocations and unique opinions around the world.
I agree. And I think that's one of the book's strengths, because you have such a wide net, of just women on all different facets of the game industry, not just dev side, not just the PR side, not just the journalism or the media side or the content creation side. I think that because you are able to at least pull from all these different parts of the industry or all these different corners, I think you have a much more better compilation of individuals that are just, showcase what the better aspects of the games industry. And I think that was pretty cool. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, which I also think was a good positive in the book, is the timeline stuff that you include in there. Some of the mappings of like some of the important like parts of history and gaming and stuff. Why was that important for you individually to include that in there? Because for some people that, when they do a book like this, maybe they wouldn't necessarily focus on specific like timelines of history. Like, they'll focus specifically just on the individuals. But why include that specifically?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that in my research I realized I wanted, because I felt like, a lot of these books that I read just profiled the 50 or 100 or 200 women. They were just profile to profile to profile. And while I appreciated that, and I knew that there was no way I could actually do a historical telling of women in games, that is not what this book is. I think that is literally the first thing that I say in my author's note, is that this is not a comprehensive history. It is not a history book. However, I wanted to contextualize the profiles that you would be reading by setting the stage. And so by dedicating a few pages each decade, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, to kind of set the stage for the achievements of these women, I think it makes it a bit more accessible. And accessibility was also something that was important to me. I wanted to make sure that you didn't have to be a hardcore gamer, or you didn't have to be an industry professional to be interested by this book, which is why we have the timelines. We have things like the glossary. Pardon me. We have things like the glossary. We have things like the terms and the resources in the
which
back.
is very helpful. I thought that was also a good inclusion because, again, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people that are probably going to pick this up and don't know a lot of the lingo that we use in the games industry, and I figured that was a good asset to them.
Yeah, and especially because, my hope is that young girls will be able to read this and be inspired to pursue a path in games. I wanted to make sure that they had, sort of a baseline of a comprehensive tool that they could use that would not only inspire them, but teach them the basics. And that's why it was also really important for me to do the day in the life of features. So not just highlighting, these women who are household names in the industry, but wanted to highlight women who are just exceptionally good at their craft, like amazing programmers and amazing animators and so on, and what readers can learn from them. So what kind of tools do animators need to learn? What does a good portfolio look like? What is your pro tip if you want to be an animator? So by highlighting the variety of these career paths and offering advice, I'm hoping it can help focus the drive of someone who perhaps wants to work in the industry and help them
kind of edge them on
where they
a little
fit.
bit.
Yeah, that's a hope.
Yeah, this is something to me, or at least the book is something to me that could be good in like colleges or even kind of like in middle or high schools. I think that would be something like, again, for people that are curious about getting into game design or at least exploring different aspects of the industry, that this will be a good asset to them, or at least something that's good reference material, or at least an introduction into a lot of what we have in the gaming industry.
And
I think that could work.
That was definitely the hope. And so that's why, if you're a seasoned industry professional or a huge gaming fan, you probably aren't going to read the tutorial and the glossaries and all of that kind of stuff, right? You can
we know that stuff.
It's not for you, but I wanted to make sure that if someone was just looking at the industry and saying, this is something I could be interested in, that they had that bit of context, that extra context.
I agree. I think that was the better choice. Overall, though, I think it's a well put together book. One of the other things I want to ask you, though, again, this is just for my own little nitpick, because, again, I have to be a little nitpicky when I look at these books. To me, some of the essays or some of the different types of additional editorials and features that were included in the book, for me personally, I felt was a little bit out of place. Even though I appreciated the messages and what they were trying to go for and what they were trying to convey to people that were looking at this book. Why do you feel like those were important to include in there, as opposed to maybe doing more profiles, or as opposed to doing much more other informational, day in the life type of stuff?
Well, first and foremost, it was because I wanted to get as many contributors in there as possible. And I was like, how can I get more women in this book? Because I
just bring everybody.
I don't want to choose between them. And there's all these amazing women. I want them to contribute somehow. So it was a little bit selfish because I wanted to get more women in there. But I just wanted to, one of the things, again, from my research, I found the books that just were very profile, a little bit drier. And I wanted things like that context. I wanted things like the day in the life of, and particularly for the essays, that was an opportunity to have something that was completely contributed by someone else, to have a fresh voice, because I wrote the other material and I wanted there to be a little moment of a unique and different voice. And that's also the same thing for the in their own words sections, which that was also important to me because, a lot of times women in gaming are represented as sort of a monolithic entity. And if you talk to a lot of women, they'll agree that this has probably happened to them before, that oftentimes if you are the only woman in a room, you're supposed to represent opinions of all women.
You're supposed to be that rep. You're that ambassador.
You're I'm not capable of representing all women. I would not want that responsibility because women are not monolithic. We are so diverse, just as men are, just as all genders are.
Yeah.
And so the in their own words sections basically allowed me to just ask a question and allow anyone to answer however they felt was their truth. And I think that that's very interesting. Favorite characters. There's, some people love certain characters, some people don't like other characters. And it was interesting to see the array of answers that came in, or the benefits of diversity and so on. So it was just important to me to offer opportunities for people to share their own their own voice without my voice seeping in there as was done with the profiles, because obviously with the profiles I took the interviews and I crafted a narrative from those profiles.
So this is a perfect segue, because we're talking about so many other individuals, so many other ladies that you included in the book. What do you feel like you contributed, like with your own voice and your own perspective to the book, that kind of greatly enhanced a lot of like what you were putting together? Because again, there's so many other individuals in here that offer their own opinions, their own take on stuff. But what about you specifically, you as the author that was putting everything together?
The thing that I think I'm most proud of is the diversity, and it was a lot of work. I mean, I literally just had a chart where I was checking to make sure that I was getting enough women from every, representation. It listed like I said, programming, design, community management, PR. Like, do I have all of
There's
these?
a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. And different women from around the world and different language groups and, just the LGBT community and all sorts. I just wanted to make sure that I had an actual representative slice of what the industry is. And the industry, it's not as diverse as it can be, but it's getting there. There's so many unique, diverse voices around the world. And so I'm very proud of being able to facilitate that. And it was actually kind of hard sometimes because obviously my knowledge of the industry, and I've been in the industry for over a decade now, is somewhat colored by what I'm familiar with, right? So I knew my first list that I created, which obviously I didn't intend to stop there, but my first list that I created was a lot of women from North America, the United Kingdom, and Japan, because those are the territories that I am most familiar with. But then I looked and I said, where am I missing? I was missing a lot of women from South America at first. And so I messaged a variety of IGDA chapters in various countries in South America. And I said, do you have any individuals you would recommend for this? And then I looked into them and got names and did digging and so forth, and just lots of networking and asking around. And I think that we ended up with just a really fascinating array of people. And it's not just diversity for diversity's sake. I honestly believe that the diversity in the book makes it that much stronger because the stories are just so much more interesting. Like, I love reading about Ari Green from Barbados and how, she was like, I don't have the resources to go and have, this formal video game education. These resources aren't available here. So I'm going to take online classes. And what she says is use her cheat code, where she basically created her own game studio because there weren't resources there. She created her own game studio, and she's helping kick off the gaming industry in the Caribbean. And so those stories, I think, are fascinating. And I love the array of stories and array of voices in the book. I'm very proud of that.
I agree. There's a lot of perspectives in there, and there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different types of food for thought in there, which I think works to the book's benefit, which I think is pretty cool. Here's an interesting one. I think this is a perfect way to wrap it up. Now that this book is coming out, again, it's coming out tomorrow at the time that we're recording this, so people are going to be checking it out, people are going to be buying it, and all that jazz. If there is ever the possibility for like a second edition, because I'm pretty sure at some point, somebody's going to ask about it. Do you ever think like maybe, you would include more individuals or more different types of ladies that, that you couldn't include the first time around, or maybe you approach things a different way, or what types of things that you would do different, if there was a possibility of another edition of something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be open to that because, like I said, I've still got this list. It's
a big list
of tons of women I would like to include. I think that if I was doing things again, I would push even harder networking to get into areas that I struggled to find contacts. And, it was very, very difficult for me to find women in China. And I networked like crazy. And I even had to have a friend, translate an interview for me with the woman Eloise that we did find, the professional gamer in China. But, I really struggled to get responses from women in South Korea and countries like Vietnam and so on. And so I did find some people, but I would definitely take more time to make sure that these just find more ways to connect with women from other countries around the world that I felt were a little bit underrepresented despite my initial efforts, to get in touch with them.
That's awesome. I can imagine how tough that's got to be because, again, language barriers and stuff, that's got to be a nightmare and a half. In some cases.
I mean, even Japan was pretty hard for me, and that was more of a cultural thing. It was a lot of the women didn't. A lot of the Japanese women that I wanted to include culturally would not want to be highlighted as an individual, but rather have the work of the team highlighted. And so it was kind of difficult. And I eventually found a couple of very talented women who were happy to talk about their experiences and their careers, but it was something that was challenging, just trying to work past that initial hurdle. So I learned a lot, and I definitely feel like I could surface some more extremely interesting and inspirational stories from around the world if we ever did a second volume. But that would have to be after I get like a year off to
after you just chill out
being
for a long time.
Again.
Just like you've been doing out here. You've been doing things out here. You've been doing too much work. So now you got to rest. Yeah. But I would like to see that. I think it'd be kind of cool. I think this book came out pretty good overall. I think you did a lot of good job, putting everything together. So all that struggle, I feel like it was well worth it overall. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
But Meagan, thank you for chatting up with me about your book. Again, guys, 100 Women in Gaming, 100 Professionals of Play. It's coming out tomorrow. It'll probably be out by the time you hear this, so it'll be out now by the time you guys hear this. Meagan, where can everybody find you right now? Because you're doing a bunch of stuff, but where are you at right now?
Yeah, so most of the social channels, I'm just Meagan Marie, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. So you can just find me online, and lots of book spam right now. But otherwise, it's usually cat photos, cosplay, and travel photos, so...
And retweets, from what I saw. A lot of retweets of book
stuff. A lot
of
retweets for this.
Overall, it's like that. So, but yeah, everybody can get the book right now in most bookstores, online, etc., most retail outlets, correct?
Yep, correct.
Awesome. So yeah, definitely guys, check that out. There'll probably be links in the description box below so you guys can go check out all that stuff. Again, thank you, Meagan, for chatting it up with me. Guys, if you enjoyed this whole interview, please let me know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, as well as also subscribe to the Koalition's YouTube channel for all our videos just like this and a whole bunch of other great content we got for you guys. So I will talk to you guys again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.